Decision Diaries.
Welcome to Decision Diaries. Today on Decision Diaries, I have two special guests. What's really interesting about these special guests is I met the mom of our special guest in London when I was at the famous Ted Lasso pub, Crown and Anchor pub. I was so fortunate to sit next to this person and her husband and immediately realized she doesn't have just one story. She has many stories, but one of the stories and decisions that I found so interesting was when she talked about her daughter. So today we are going to talk about her daughter's passion and decision to run not one, and I don't even know how many we're up to, but multiple marathons. So let me welcome Denise and Jessica Pagan. Welcome to Decision Diaries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. So Jessica, you are how old? Can I ask?
I just turned the fabulous 40 this past year.
Ooh, the young 40. Remember those days, Denise? Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's like the new 20. What are you talking about? That's like the brand new 20. Okay. So when did you decide to train and run your first marathon?
It was 2008. I was in my 20s at the time, and I had never done anything athletic in my life before. I'd never done youth sports. I had never been on any type of a team. I was a speech and debate competitor. That was kind of my jam. So in high school, and it was kind of one of these decisions where it kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of random. And when I decided to put on running shoes one day, it was kind of close after a breakup I had with a college boyfriend. And it was one of those decisions where I'm going to pull like a Forrest Gump. Like, I'm just going to put on shoes and see how far I can go. And I went down the block and I said, I'm going to do another block. And it was literally like Forrest Gump in my head saying, I just keep running. I'm just going to see how far I can go. And I probably ran the equivalent of maybe a mile and a half. I have no idea. And I told a colleague at the time I was working at a restaurant, and I knew she was an avid runner. And I was so excited. I said, hey, I ran. And she said, cool. Do you want to do a race? I said, I should probably just do a marathon. I had run one time.
Wow.
Around my neighborhood in old sneakers. They weren't even running shoes. And she said, there's this I know of a marathon. It's in San Francisco, and you get a Tiffany's necklace as the medal. So instead of getting the big chunky medal, get a really cool necklace. And I said, well, I got to do that. So I registered within the next week or so for the marathon. And I got in. I think it was a lottery. I think they picked people, but somehow I got picked. And that was in February. And I ran my first race ever, which was a full marathon in October that same year.
Oh my gosh.
So I did one, and I said, that was hard. Let me try a half marathon. So I kind of went backwards in the distances. So I started really long, obviously. And then I did a half, and then eventually I did a 5K. And I'm like, yeah, those shorter ones are really fun. But I thought, I could improve on my time. So it becomes kind of an addiction. And when you start to talk to runners, they talk about, racing, especially ones that are avid racers. They race and they keep telling themselves I could always do better. If I do this, if I do these weights, if I do the speed work, if I, run on a track, if I try these shoes, whatever it is, I could always do a little better. So 14 marathons later, probably 40 half marathons later, multiple 5 and 10Ks later, here I am.
Are you on 15 now?
London in a few weeks will be number 15. Yes.
Yeah, Denise and I were talking about that, and I was like, "You're going to London without me?" Wait a second. So Denise, yeah, Okay. So, okay. First of all, do you still have that Tiffany necklace?
I do.
Was it nice?
It is. It says Tiffany's, I believe, on the back, and it's silver, and it has like a little running girl. It was the Nike Women's Marathon, so it was for women, and it had like a cute little picture of a woman running on it. So it's just kind of a cool keepsake because number one, it's Tiffany's, and number two, it was my first race and marathon. So yeah, I got to hold on to that.
Oh, wow. No, that sounds really nice. I would gladly give up some of my little chunky medals for a nice Tiffany necklace. I don't know if that would motivate me, but I can tell you a boyfriend breaking up with me has motivated me to look pretty hot. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like I was doing sit-ups. I probably could have run a marathon. I love the Forrest Gump thing. It's absolutely, I totally can see it. So Denise, were you there when she decided I'm going to run this marathon? And did you meet her in San Francisco?
Well, actually, we weren't there when she made the decision, but actually, that was the first time we went to San Francisco, to meet her at the finish line. And so I think I had kind of decided, you know what, that is too big of a deal to not have someone there, for you at the finish line. And it's tough to get to finish lines. I'm going to be honest with you. We're learning that some are easier than others. But so we went over the night before. We rented a hotel. We stayed at the hotel. We got her to the starting line. I'm sad to say, I think I went back to bed. And my husband ended up going and meeting her at the end. But
Really?
I've been a good soldier ever since. I have never failed once since then. So, yeah, so we were there for the first one.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this, Denise, did you ever run?
No.
Okay. So running doesn't really run in the family. I'm going to use run a lot. Okay. So let me share my running experience and you can have a good laugh at my expense. So, I had a new neighbor who was single, and she came to the other neighborhood women, and she said, "I want to start running at 5 a.m." And Denise, I was like you. I was like, "We're doing what? When? You got to be kidding me! We're running at 5 a.m. Like, why?" And Catherine was like, "Oh." Catherine's my neighbor across the street. And she was like, "Oh, look at Lynn. I thought you were competitive." And I was like, "Oh no, bitch, it's on. I'm gonna do it. If you're doing it, I'm doing it." This new neighbor is like calling us out as being lazy. She's like, "Oh, you guys and you're sleeping." Oh my God, there's like a massive storm going on. Hold on a second. I think do you guys hear the rain? Okay. Massive storm. Okay. So anyway, this neighbor declares war. It's war. About three of us are going to wake up at 5 a.m. And she says, "Well, the best way to do this is we are not going to exchange phone numbers. At 5 a.m, meet in the middle of the road. Whoever doesn't come is going to feel as though they've let the other two down." So, the first night I had a hard time sleeping because I was like, I don't want to let anybody down. Like, I don't want to leave a man down sitting in the middle of the road at 5 a.m. And so this was really effective that we didn't exchange phone numbers and that you always would go to bed at night thinking, I don't want to leave somebody in the middle of the road at 5 a.m. by themselves. So we were running. We were doing pretty good. Doing pretty awesome. And then we decided to do a 5K. I mean, 5K. I mean, this is peanuts to you. I don't even know. When you do a 5K, you must feel like you're just running down the hall. But so we do this 5K at Halloween time. And it runs through a cemetery, which, is nice. And one of the things I'd like to say, I am not a big runner, but I was more of like I could walk long distances, a really good walker. One of the things I did like about running at 5 a.m., obviously you get to see more. Now I'm a biker. I realize I get to see twice as more when I'm on a bike, but when you're running, you get to see a lot. So this 5K in a cemetery, I was like, oh, it's a very old cemetery, beautiful trees in it and interesting. So I was like, I can do this. But then we raised the stakes a little more that I will be running this in a costume.
Oh.
My costume I was dressed as the wrestler from Glow. That was the Russian girl, the wrestler from Glow, if you've seen that show. And my girlfriend was dressed as the USA. So I was Russia, she was USA, and we're running this 5K after maybe I have run at 5 a.m. in the morning, like consistently for maybe like a week. Okay, so I'm running this 5K in my little costume, and I think I am doing awesome. Like, I don't know anything about times. Like, I'm not really thinking about like my mile time. But I'm running and I feel like I've been running for hours, and I was also not very familiar with I think you're going to have to teach us about some of the indicators on the run, like how to tell where you are, if you don't like have a watch or something. So I'm running and I feel like I've been running for hours, and I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'm sure the finish line is just around this next corner. And that's when I see the one and realize I've only run 1 mile. Like I've only run 1 mile. Like I was like, what's that one mean? And they're like, oh, that's the first mile. And I was like, oh shit. So then I convinced my Miss America girl who's running in a costume beside me. I'm like, we need to keep sort of like a different pace. I think we were running at it like we were sprinting. And so I don't think we're going to make it if we don't like get to a good pace. So we need to talk about pacing yourself. But I think the moment I realized that maybe this was not my jam was when a person ran by me wearing an inflatable baby costume. It was this gigantic inflatable baby, like they're inside one of those inflatables while running a 5K and pushing 2 kids in a stroller. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I am dressed in a leotard as a Russian wrestler, and I just got passed by an inflatable baby. And when I got my medal and I got my little t-shirt thing, they weren't cute. Like I was really disappointed in my shirt. I did end up running another 5K because I wanted some better swag. And when I opened up my swag bag at Halloween time, I'm like, they could have thrown some candy in there for us or something. But I don't know what was going on with this 5K I signed up for, but it was a fun one because people were in costumes. But at the same point, I was like, who designed this swag? So I'm really jealous. A Tiffany necklace might have made me pass the baby. And then, wear the Tiffany necklace. And by the way, my husband slept in. He thought, oh, this is going to be a regular thing. She's going to be in plenty of other 5Ks. And he didn't realize he had just missed a one-time experience. So I had no one waiting for me on the end. I did run into some coworkers who were like, what are you dressed as? And I'm like, I'm dressed as the 1980s Glow wrestler. Like, you don't know who the 1980s, gorgeous ladies of wrestling? You don't know what that is? Of course you don't, because you were born in 1990. So that's my one runner story. And as I mentioned, that's a one runner story. So, okay. So you went to San Francisco and then you got the beautiful Tiffany necklace. Denise, how long did you guys stay there after she ran it? And then how did you feel after you ran your first marathon? My gosh, what was going through your head?
Well, and I have to just add, not only did I get a Tiffany's necklace, they were presented to us on silver platters by firemen in tuxedos.
Were they topless?
No, unfortunately. Unfortunately. They had the full, I mean, they had the tie, the shirt, the jacket, all the way down, and you crossed the finish line, and they each said, "Congratulations." And you take your little Tiffany's box. And it was a very magical moment, I must say.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, do
Yeah.
you have any pictures of this? Because I really would love to see that.
You know, I must. This is 2008, so this is like pre like the social media that we know now, which makes me feel really old to like say that. Like this is before Instagram and Facebook, and I think I had all these things, but I don't think we like posted pictures like we did back in the day. But I do have them because sometimes they pop up in some of my time. I have a time hop app, and it's the memories that pop up. So the pictures are cringy. I raced in a cotton t-shirt, number one. My dad had hand painted me a very special custom t-shirt for my very first marathon, but me not having much knowledge or wisdom around comfort and running, and compared to what I know now, I ran in a full cotton t-shirt, which is just a big no-no. Like
Is that a big no-no?
It's a huge no-no. I now spend the money on all the tech tees. You have to get like the blended fabrics and all of the, the anti-chafe and sweat wicking and all of the, all the terms that you have to have it be considered a good runner top or good runner shorts. I mean, the evolution of what I've worn from my first marathon to what I now wear it's like a night and day. It's completely different. So
wow. Well, I know your dad designed shirts, because I think he showed us some of the other things he designed. So what was on this shirt? Because I can only imagine. I love your parents' sense of humor. So what was on the shirt? And Denise, did you guys have matching shirts?
No,
you didn't. Mom didn't get one. Mom didn't get a shirt. She didn't run, so she didn't get a shirt.
Yeah, I think we didn't know. I think we didn't know that it was going to be a thing. We thought it was like just a one-time thing. We didn't know that, 16 years later, we'd be chasing her around the world to be there for her. So no, we just.
I think it said teacher runner or runner teacher, and it had like a little apple on it, and there was something on the back. There was something witty on it, because I do remember people passing me and saying, "Oh, nice shirt." I mean, they could have been mocking me because I was wearing a cotton t-shirt for all I know. I don't know, but I still have the shirt. I have it. It's in a bin, but I still have it. It's a memento. Like that's going to be held on to forever. But it's just funny to like think like now if I had a shirt, he would have to design it on like a tech shirt, not a cotton men's blend t-shirt, 100% cotton.
Yeah. I think if I've seen some interesting ones. We have the Gate River Run in Jacksonville, and the big joke that I do with my friends every year who are runners, and they always run the Gate River Run because it runs over all the bridges in Jacksonville. I don't know if you've heard of the Gate River Run, but it is it's a beautiful run. But I will say that every year I always play the joke, and I will go into a friend's group chat and I'll be like, "I'm over here checking in." And they're like, "What? She's running?" And then I'm like, "No, I just woke up and I'm making eggs and bacon, and you people are totally insane." And they're always like, one year, we're gonna be running, and all of a sudden you're just gonna run right by me. And I'm like, I don't know what would have to happen in my life for that to be done, other than someone's chasing me with a knife. I'm not quite sure if I can do it. But every year they fall for it. Every year they're like, "Well, we never know if you're going to have like a midlife crisis and suddenly decide secretly that you're going to run the Gate River Run." I did where, and let me ask you this. This is also one of those funny things. I was at my friend's house and, we were going to the gym and I didn't have any like gym clothes. And she was like, well, just, borrow one of my t-shirts or whatever. And so I grabbed a Gate River Run t-shirt and I was wearing it in a step class or something like that. And someone came up to me and was asking me about the run, of which I had no details because I had not run the run. And I thought they were going to stab me. They really did not want me wearing that t-shirt. They were like,
no. It's a big no-no,
it's
right?
big no. Let's talk about that. Like if somebody is wearing a marathon shirt and hasn't earned it, I mean, you're asking for it. And, they asked me if I was a volunteer and I said no. And then finally I fessed up, this is my girlfriend who ran the Gate River Run and I just didn't have any clothes. And they were like, okay, that's acceptable. That's like, you didn't have any clothes, but we don't want to ever see you in this ever again. Like get it together.
Yeah.
So has anybody, okay. So since we're talking about clothing and you mentioned sort of, you wore your dad's shirt, but from a clothing standpoint, do you have any recommendations for new runners? Because we hope we are motivating somebody, especially somebody who's been broken up with. Go for a run,
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, I don't know if this person ran into you after you ran your first marathon, but I'm sure you were looking like super hot. So what should somebody who is just getting into running but doesn't want to spend millions of dollars, what should they buy?
It's nice to just have like a good basic set of shirts. I have a nickname on my I'm on a racing team. I've been on a racing team for 4 years, and my nickname on the team is the Ice Queen. And I'm known as the Ice Queen because no matter the temperature, I will be in shorts and a short sleeve shirt, preferably a tank top. It could be 28 degrees. I'm in shorts and a tank top, no gloves, no beanies, no armbands. I'm the Ice Queen. I like the cold. So if that's not everybody's jam, then my recommendation is to just find what's comfortable. I can't run in long sleeves ever. I don't wear any. I have no long sleeve shirts. It doesn't matter how cold it is. So I like to run in any type of a tech tee or tank top. My first kind of set was just from Amazon. I kind of bought like a bulk pack of 5 or 6 or something because it was one of those like, I might eventually not want to run as much or really get into it, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars later, I have 2 full drawers of running clothes, which are t-shirts from races, and then of course just shirts I've bought that are comfortable. I prefer to run in more of a biker short. I used to run in shorts that were considered running shorts, but I like a little bit of length to my shorts, so I prefer a nice tight biker short, a moisture wicking fabric. And then shoes, it's personal preference. I like a nice high cushion shoe. The racing team I run for is run out of a running store that fits people for shoes and running gear. So they do a foot scan. They scan your foot to see what your width is, your arches, the lengths, et cetera, and then they fit you with a shoe based off of what your foot looks like and what you prefer. So I have a couple brands that I kind of stick with and enjoy. That's evolved since my first marathon to now. So you just kind of do some trial and error and find what you like, find what's comfortable. Some people just don't like fabric on their arms, underneath. Some people, like a little bit more, room in their tops or in their shorts. But I kind of found what I liked, just kind of experimenting. And now, like I said, about 2.5 of my drawers are now just running clothes.
So, not to make this about me, but did you ever run in a costume?
Funny enough, I've never run in a full costume. I always thought those people were very brave because I would always think about like, I would get so hot in a costume. So I recently did a run on St. Patrick's Day where I was a pacer. So I got to pace a half marathon, and that was my first time wearing a tutu and little headband with shamrocks on it. So that was my first time that I considered dressing up for a run, and I really enjoyed it. That's I think maybe the extent of what I might do. I do have a taco costume that I always thought would be funny to run in, just to see a running taco. But I just worry about my comfort, and the sweat factor kind of concerns me. So
Oh yeah,
no, I am not a costume runner.
yeah, especially for those long runs. Maybe, a 5K to you would probably feel like a walk around the block. You could probably wear one of those dinosaur outfits.
Yeah.
So Denise, as she's evolved her wardrobe, you guys have any traditions, you and Dan, with Dan's colorful t-shirts and different things, or you have any sort of recommendations for those people that are cheering on their marathon running children?
Yeah, one of the as I said, some of the marathons, it's tough to get close to the finish line. So when we can, we try to track her on the course. And so there's always apps, and so you can follow where they are. And we were in Tokyo last March while she was running, and we were jumping on that subway trying to run to catch her, and then we just miss her, and we get back on the subway and say, okay, where can we go next to try to catch her? So a lot of it is, thank goodness for technology, that you can actually track your runner so that you know where your runner is. And then we went as close to the finish line in Tokyo as we could get, and we must have blinked and she ran right by us. So unfortunately, we missed her, but that's part of the fun, is seeing where you can, catch them. And the race that she just ran on St. Patrick's Day, we kind of, that one, when she's pacing, she's not going for her own record. She's trying to keep people who run at that same time, with her. So we kind of knew when she would be there, so we didn't go try to track her down. Half marathon really is tougher anyway, but as much as possible, we watch her on the course and then wait for her at the finish line.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me when my children were younger and we had a great cross country running teacher. Jessica, are you at your school? Do you promote like a running club or anything like that?
I don't. We do have an after school club for kids to prepare for a 5K in the spring. It's run by somebody else, but if I had more time in the day, that is something I would love to do, just to promote running for kids. I think it's a good way to get them started early.
Yeah, I was, so, they had seen, at the time that we got this great teacher that volunteered her time to get people into running, to get the kids, elementary school children, into running. She was just starting up the program, and I was doing that, 5 a.m. We eventually ran that neighbor out of the neighborhood. No, she ended up getting married and she moved away. And then, we exchanged phone numbers, and it just went downhill from there. We kept texting each other, too tired. And then she was our motivation. But, when my kids, ran cross country, as you just mentioned, Denise, trying to catch them at certain points. And then, I didn't know a lot about cross country running. And so when I would watch them, I didn't know anything about pace and timing. And there wasn't any, I didn't know which times I was supposed to look at. I was just like, oh, awesome. My kid's still in motion. That's awesome. And we were all just kind of cheering. But after I went to enough of them, I started to pick up, oh, this person is a rocket ship. This person is really crushing it on this mile, and this person over here. And then my own child, I was like, wow, they're getting better. And one time, I think my younger son, misunderstood the course, and he suddenly picked up pace thinking that that was the finish line. And we didn't know how to tell him. Like, I was like, why did he suddenly pick up pace so fast? And we didn't know how to tell him because we were kind of in a weird position. Like, we were yelling his name, but he couldn't hear what we were. And that's the other thing. I don't even know. Can runners hear when the parents are yelling? But we're yelling for our son, like, don't overdo it. There's like more to go. He's not catching it. And he keeps up this pace and comes around the corner. You could tell he realized, this is not the finish line. He still had a ways to go. And he ended up being at the top of the list. And after that, that became his new pace, which was pretty incredible. So it was sort of a mistake. Have you ever, so as you talk about like tracking this app, have you watched as she has gotten better and better? And at some points you're like, oh my gosh, like she is running like the first one she did this time. And have you seen that, Denise or Jessica?
Yeah,
You want to talk about how good you are?
yeah. Actually, you can, and I'll look at the app and I'll go, oh, she's running right at her pace, and then I'll see the next one. I'll go, oh, she's dropped a little bit, and then it starts to give me anxiety because it's just like too much information. It's like because we're trying to anticipate, where is she going to be, but then I'm not running, but it's still very it's very stressful.
It is. It's so funny. Seriously, this is a funny part, Jessica, because it's so funny. Like, as my son picked up the pace, I was like, like, take some deep breaths. Like, I don't know why. And then afterwards, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm so exhausted. That was so exhausting.
Well, we kind of have a joke. She runs the SIM, which is the California International Marathon every year, and it starts up in, I think, Folsom, and then it ends at the California State Capitol in Sacramento. And where I used to stand was right at the 26-mile marker, and then she would have to run around like maybe 2 more blocks. So while she's finishing her last 2 blocks, I'm running to the finish line, which is just 1 block away. And by the way, I haven't been running, right? So she'll come and I'll catch her at the finish line and we'll take pictures and everything. I go, Jessica, that just about killed me to run that last block. She's run 26.2 miles. So just a little bit of a joke that I can't handle 1 block.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I mentioned my my harrowing 5K that I ran, and right after the 5K, when my husband asked me, well, when's the next 5K? And I was like, I don't know, right? We were behind a car one time and I saw the half marathon. Like, I saw the sticker where somebody has the 13.1.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what a loser. I was like, they can't do a full marathon. Like, why even buy that sticker? And my husband just looked at me and he's like, oh, right. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Like, you could judge. Like, nobody in this car has gone past, 2 miles, and you're over here criticizing the car in front of us with a 13.1. So much fun. So you've got to enjoy the non-runners in your family. But, it's amazing to me, the mental mind of marathoners. It seems to me a lot of our executive team at my company talk about marathon running as being sort of just a long-term concentration of the mind. And, how in the world do you kind of prepare yourself? And then I guess my next question is, there's a lot of preparation, of course, but like just mentally. And then on top of that, do you still hit the wall, or are you at that point now that you anticipate the wall and you kind of get to that runner's high?
So I used to run with music. So music was great for just kind of zoning out, and you curate your playlist, and you get some fast music in there, some mellow music, some just familiar tunes. And I actually, weirdly enough, have not run with music for probably about 5 years. And it's kind of just started out as I would like lose my headphones. And that was just like, well, you can't run if you don't have your headphones, or if you didn't charge your headphones, if they're like the wireless ones. But then I really started to enjoy running without my headphones, without music. And there's like days, like if I run like this evening, I kind of like, I'll run 5 miles, and I'll just kind of like replay my day and kind of like get myself organized, and like, oh, what do I have upcoming? What do I have, what do I have to do when I get home? I kind of create like mental checklists. I have to do a 20-mile run tomorrow morning. I'm in the thick of my marathon training for London. So I will be out for about 3 hours ish, give or take.
Wow.
I'm this is my second 20-miler of 3 that I'm going to have to do. I did one last week. I have this one this weekend, and then I have one the following weekend. So yeah, I'll just get out there, and I just kind of get in my own head. I try to be conscious of my breathing. I try to be conscious of my pace. It's also kind of for safety reasons that I don't really run with headphones anymore. I try to be really aware of my surroundings. I tend to run my long runs along the same trail along the river. And I just like to be aware. There's a lot of bikers out there. There's other runners out there. There's people walking dogs out there. So I like to feel like just like I'm present when I'm running. But yeah, when I'm actually doing a full marathon, a lot of it's the crowd energy, the cheering, the music. I very often wear my name on my bib or above my bib. So when you're running by and people say, "Go, Jessica!" Yeah, Jessica. That kind of gives you a little bit of an energy push. And when you get to those miles around 18 to 20, which is that wall that people talk about hitting. I've hit it very regularly, still tend to hit it, but I feel like my training has gotten a little bit more refined in the past couple years. So that wall either isn't hit as hard or it's not hit as early. So I feel
Okay.
like for Tokyo, I really didn't feel like, and that was just last year, I didn't feel like I really hit a wall. I feel like I was kind of coasting. My pace took a little dip, in the early 20-mile range, after you've been running for 3.5 hours or so. But I feel like I've been able to kind of step my training up to where I'm not hitting it as much. My fueling is better. I take fuel with me, so I'm taking gels or other type of supplements every 40 minutes. So I really kind of honed what a race day looks like, how to eat before, how to drink electrolytes and water during. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see what I was like when I started and how much knowledge I didn't have. My first marathon, I ran it in 5 hours and 43 minutes, and I'm now down to 4 hours and 7 minutes as my fastest. So
Wow. That
I've
is
cut
so
off
impressive.
close to 2 hours. And again, that's come with time, training, seeking out support, coaching, reading, talking to other runners, and trial and error. So yeah, it's there's so many pieces to it. That first run I did not understand that like running is more than just putting shoes on and moving your legs. There's about 100 more things that actually can go into making a run a successful run, or a successful long run, or a run where you have a goal, a time goal, a speed goal, a distance goal, whatever it may be. So yeah, there's so much I've learned. And as a teacher, I always appreciate the fact that like I've been open to learning, and applying what I've learned to the sport.
So, okay, so we've been throwing out there San Francisco, Tokyo, and London, but I think we need to run through all of the cool marathons that you have been a part of. And we know the Boston Marathon. What's interesting is, I work for a company out of Boston, and we had our happy hour right above the river, and we see all these runners going by, and we were up there and we were eating, I think we were eating fried Oreos as we were watching them. And we were all drinking beer, eating like fried Oreos or something. We had like a carnival theme to our little company event, and we're waving to the fittest people I've ever seen, and they said, oh yeah, that's all part of, this is the regular training that occurs this time of night. You'll see a bunch of people training for the Boston Marathon. So okay, let's go through, and maybe you need to start with your number one favorite marathon that you've ever been in.
Oh, that's so tough, because now that I've kind of gone international and done, races that are not in the United States, it's just so hard to narrow it down. Having now done, out of the 6 world major marathons, not including London coming up, I have done Berlin, Chicago, which is obviously in the United States, and Tokyo. I've done 9, 10. Oh, I'm on number 10. This year will be number 10 of the California International Marathon. I've run the San Francisco, the Nike Women's Marathon. And then we did a COVID marathon. I was in a training program during COVID when races were shut down. Everything was put on hold, and we had done a full training program. And the training group I was in, they put on a full marathon. So I still count that one because I still did it, but it just wasn't an official.
Tell me you didn't do that with a mask. You didn't run the COVID marathon with a mask, did you?
No, we did have to wear a mask at the starting line. And then right when we finished, after we took some cool photos, we had to slap our mask back on as we're, struggling to breathe.
I still see people occasionally running across our bridges. I saw someone the other day run across one of our bridges with a mask on, and I was like, you are outside. I think you're okay, buddy. But but yeah, we did have, hey, everybody, their choices, their decisions, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so I know it's hard. Okay, let's just go with international. So that the Tokyo or Berlin, like, what's your choice there? Those are very interesting places to run.
And so different. I did Berlin before I did Tokyo. I prefer a nice, flat, fast course. And in fact, the world record for that time was actually set that day for a marathon by Kipchoge, which was very cool to be a part of a marathon that there was a record. That was such a cool marathon. There was a lot of great crowd support. Running through the city of Berlin was amazing. You passed through the Brandenburg Gate right at the towards the end. I mean, the energy was amazing there. But then there's Tokyo, which was such a different experience. It was a very quiet marathon. There were not a lot of people cheering and making noise. I almost felt like we were kind of on display as the runners. The streets are shut down and we're running, and just people were kind of just looking at us. And there was some cheering, there was some music, but it was one of the quieter marathons. And Tokyo had a lot of out and back kind of zigzag turns. It was a very dynamic marathon. And in fact, that marathon, it clocked on my watch as it almost being 27 miles. I had actually run a lot extra because of all of the turns and
wow.
It was, I called myself an ultra marathoner for that day because I technically went over 26.2 miles, and you're an ultra marathoner if you go over that. So
yeah, I would give yourself that. Yeah, I would give yourself that. So,
but I would say Tokyo probably, just because it was so interesting. And we had a great trip. My parents, of course, joined me on that trip. So it was such a different experience culturally, the food, the race organization itself. So I would say internationally, Tokyo might be my favorite.
All right, Mom, which one is your favorite?
I love Tokyo. Never really in all of our travels, never really had a strong desire to travel to Asia only because it's far. It's a long plane ride there, but then it's like, okay, we got to go to Tokyo. I would say in terms of just enjoying it as a spectator, I love Berlin, and part of it was because we were staying in an apartment with Jessica and two of her running friends. So we were actually there to watch the three of them run, and we were able to catch them all out on the course. And then there was just something about watching her. And we happened to be, the Brandenburg Gate is pretty big, but we happened to be in exactly the right place that she ended up running through. And you just get kind of a chill because it is like, this is Berlin. What are we doing here? We're
Right.
here to watch a marathon, and you see your child run through the Brandenburg. I have to say it just, I'm kind of getting chills just thinking about it. That one was pretty special. Although I did love Tokyo too.
And Jessica, have you been to London yet? Have you
Many
been to
times,
London?
many times. And I having been there once I became a runner, I had always said, I'm going to run the London Marathon. I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. And so it's very cool that in a few weeks from now, we'll get to say, yeah, check that off the bucket list.
Well, Denise and Dan, you guys forgot to call us because how are we going to make it to the Crown and Anchor pub in time for this event to occur?
You know what? And Dan is going to want to go back there, and we'll have a drink in your honor to to reflect back on
Yeah,
meeting you.
definitely send some pictures because
Yeah.
well, we're going to be going back there again, and Jessica, you have to watch the rest of Ted Lasso so you understand where you are, because you definitely have to go there. So on the what is your favorite on the American tour?
So I guess technically I've done 3 official United States marathons. And I would say, as far as the course goes, the crowd support, despite what happened, which I'm assuming we'll get into later, I really like Chicago. Chicago was really a magical marathon. I was not in a good headspace for it, but looking back, kind of through the lens of as a runner, as a marathoner, and that experience, there was just something about it. There was supposedly about 1 million people along the course the year that I ran it. And you think about it, you're like, 1 million people, but it's over 26.2 miles. The crowds are huge. They're very loud. The course itself is flat. It takes you through this all over the city. I mean, the sites are great. The GPS doesn't work very well. I had some miles that said I was going kind of world record speed, some that said I was going as slow as a snail, but it all evened out at the end. So that was good. But yeah, Chicago was, I really like the course. The home marathon, this California International Marathon, I consider it like my backyard marathon. It's where I do my training. It's where I've done it so many times. So it kind of has a special place in my heart because it's the one I run with my friends. It's the one I first did, when I started to get more serious about training and marathon running. So it has a special place. Of course, San Francisco was my first. That was my gateway marathon. But yeah, I would say Chicago there was something really magical about that race, the course, the people. It was very cool. It was one I would probably go back and do again.
So I don't know, Denise, do you want to talk about Chicago?
Yeah,
I think it is a part of it is a part of life,
yeah.
and
It's
when
part of the story. So the plan was, this was one of the ones where it was just going to be Jessica and me, and it was just going to be a girls' weekend. We flew out on Friday. We were going to get her race packet picked up on Friday. Saturday, we were going to go to the museum, the famous art museum there, maybe do a little shopping. We were staying right on Michigan Avenue, and then she'd run on Sunday, and then we were going to come home on Monday. And then when we went to pick up her race packet on Friday, we got back to the subway station and I was attacked and thrown onto the subway tracks. So I actually spent my marathon weekend not shopping and going to the museum. I spent it at Northwestern in the trauma unit after I got clobbered pretty good by a guy who was picked up, still in jail, going to have about a 14-year prison term because of it. But here's the thing. It was horrible. Jessica was at the hospital with me till 3 o'clock in the morning. She had to, get her wits about her. I insisted that she run. There was nothing she could really do for me. But luckily, the race people got wind of it. The health and safety director for the marathon was also a doctor at Northwestern. And so he was well aware of what had happened, reached out to Jessica, moved her to the presidential suite at the Hilton, gave her a police escort the whole weekend, really took very, very good care of her, which made it much easier for me, and wasn't wasn't her best performance, but she did it, and that was really important. That's why we were there. That we weren't there to sit in the hospital. We were there for her to run. So yeah, not the best circumstances, but she kind of has an open invitation to go back and do it again. I'll go with her, but this time no subway. We will
No,
not be-
no subway.
no
Yeah,
subway.
and you told me that story in the pub, and you tell it with just such just positivity, in the sense that, what I see a lot these days is some people are trying to dodge around life not being uncomfortable. And as I get older and my life gets uncomfortable physically, just getting older is kind of uncomfortable. And then certain things can happen in life, that trauma can happen in life, and it's like a marathon. You've got to go through it. And I think mothers in particular are very much, you have that in you to say to your children, you have to keep going. Like, don't like there, you don't serve a purpose by somehow, walking away from your dream to sit here in the hospital with me. And so kudos to you for saying you must go, because I imagine that just tore at your heart, Jessica. And you were like, I don't know if I should I not, but I've trained for this, and this is really important. And I imagine with any athlete, there are moments when either physically something happens, or something happens to your family, but you still have to go out there and you have to perform, and that's what your family wants you to do. So Jessica, kudos for you for doing that. And then I love that the race person reached out and then made that experience like encouraging you and saying, look, you need to take care of yourself, try to get some time back, stay in a nice place, try to get to the other side of this. Your mom's going to be okay. Especially being a doctor. I think that probably, I imagine, would help settle your mind a little bit, that your mom was in good hands. And being somebody who also prosecuted a criminal, I just like to say that Denise and I are probably never going to be selected for jury duty. Every time I get selected for jury duty, they always say, "Oh, have you ever been, held up at gunpoint?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, bye-bye." And I'm like, "Thank you. It's been pleasant." I'm never going to be selected for jury duty. So there you go. That's the other silver lining is,
Exactly.
not that I don't mind serving on a jury, but there are some things I definitely don't want to serve on a jury about, and it never seems to, of course, hit me at a good time.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we have Chicago that I love, that you still love it, even, with some of those memories. I do want to say that even though you're avoiding the Chicago subway, you certainly have gone through more subways since then, Denise. You've been traveling. You just came back from New York, so obviously you have moved on with the subways. So okay, so now you are Chicago being your favorite. What else is it about marathons that if someone is thinking about being in a marathon, you would say, this is what I get from it. This is what I love about it. And maybe that won't be the same exact thing you love about it, but this is why I continue to do this. I didn't need 10 more boyfriends to break up with me to keep going. And obviously you didn't need a neighbor to keep you going. So the joy you get from it, I mean, if you could just kind of describe, like, what is it about marathons that you just love so much?
Well, one of the sayings in the running community is that the race is always like the celebration of your hard work and training. So, we all train to be able to run the marathon, but I'm going to have probably, for London, for example, I'm going to probably have trained over 600 miles to run 26.2 miles. So for me, it's I like the journey. I like the process. I actually say this very often. I often say I would rather train for marathons than run a marathon. And that sounds so weird to say, because it's like, well, then what's the point, right? Because that's, what are you training for? But I love the structure of a training program. I like predictability. I love scheduling things. So I have a training calendar. My racing team, we have our coach that puts in our training plan for us, and I just have to show up and do it. So the thought is, the thought process is gone. I just have to make my body move and do what the coach has assigned for me to do, which, like I said, for example, is a 20-mile run. It's like, okay, all I have to do is show up and do it. So again, for me, it's more about the build up to it. It's kind of like Christmas in a lot of ways too. It's that, I'm getting ready. It's kind of like the training is wrapping the presents and setting them under the tree. And as it gets a little closer, the excitement starts to build. And then Christmas morning, it's a blast. Everyone's excited. It's a good mood. The difference with marathoning is there's going to be a twinge of, maybe anxiety or nerves. But once you set your watch and you're going, for me, it's like euphoria. It's just, I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor. So for me, it's about the challenge. It's about putting myself out there in a way that, like I said, I didn't really do as a kid or as a teenager, having not done sports. So this was kind of my taste of getting to feel like what it's like to feel accomplished with what my body can do, that I've never had before. I have built such a strong running community here in Sacramento, both with my racing team. I do some social runs. I have just met some of the best people. Some of my closest friends now are people I've met through running, and we all get each other. We all speak the same language. We all get what it's like to be tired, sore, having pulled a muscle. We celebrate each other's wins. Every time we race, we hype each other up. Anytime we're at the track and we do loops and loops and loops and loops at 5:45 in the morning on Wednesdays, it's always, good job, you're doing great, well done. So it's all about positivity, and I think I just thrive on that, and that's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me motivated. It's what keeps me improving. Not every race is a good race, not every run's a good run, but I know long term that I'm healthy. I have good mobility. I've gotten into more strength training, so I'm building muscle, and I'm just like, I like that I'm thinking long term, that I hope to still be running, in my 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Why not?
Why
And
not? Yeah.
and I just feel like nothing bad has come out of running. I have not had really, other than what happened in Chicago. That was the worst experience I had as a person, as a runner. But the training, the community, the accomplishment, I feel all of that has just been so rewarding and it's really just from running. And it's crazy to think that I made that one decision to go take that run that one day. And I feel like that set me on a trajectory that I might not have been on. I mean, my life could have been totally different. I wouldn't know the people I know. I wouldn't be going the places I've gone if I hadn't just decided one day to put on some junky old shoes and just run down the block.
Well, it not only changed your life, but it changed your mom and your dad's as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me, Denise, what has it added to your life? Just seeing your daughter flourish in this goal that she has and this passion.
Well, it's you always want your children to feel supported. And, I'm not going to go out there and run with her, but, I can be there. I'll be there at the race. No more going back to bed. I'll never do that one again. But, just being out there, the excitement of it, going, with her to pick up her race packet the day before, going to the Runners Expo. We always go out for a special meal afterwards. We too have gotten to know her running community. In fact, up until my knee kind of went out on me, I went with her to the store where she buys her running shoes. We got me fitted for running shoes, and then my knees kind of gave out. I was going to run a 5K. I still might do that. It's still not, out of the possibility. But I think, just, being supportive, and we really want to be there. It's not even a question of, oh gosh, now we have to go watch Jessica again. It's like, no, we want to. Now, she is running a race in Big Sur in April. And so we're turning over our role at the finish line to a good friend of ours who will meet her at the finish line. So we're not going to be able to go for that one, but we'll make sure she has somebody to meet her at the finish line. So yeah, it's just fun to be supportive and to be, be part of it.
My husband and I, our first apartment was along the Gate River Run track. And, we would be sleeping in and we'd hear the noise outside of our apartment window. I mean, this is in our early 20s when we probably should have been, up. And we would hear the noise outside of our window. And when we headed downstairs, it is truly fun being in the audience as, being cheering as well. And, seeing all of the different people and, especially the last person. There was a couple of times that I was on the side cheering because it runs kind of all through our neighborhood. In fact, our house is actually where a lot of people train as they're getting ready for the Gate River Run. They're always running down our street because a running store is right around the corner from us. So, we decided, if we're going to be out and we're going to be cheering, we're going to stay in until the very end, and the last person needs the most, applause, because at that point, they're starting to pick up the cones and all the cups are all over the place, and everybody's starting to kind of pull their chairs together. And, you mentioned running into your 80s, and we had someone who had run like one of the first Gate River runs and was still running. And so he had the number on his back, and then towards the end, I understand that, a few people decided to run back and run along with them to run just be beside him as he was
Mm.
crossing the finish line. And they had all kinds of special tributes to him, and being a local and locally running and everything. And there's always a great story. There are so many people. Maybe I need to get out there with my microphone after the next Gate River run and hear why people are running. One of the runs that I was a part, actually, I was on the board, was a Susan G. Komen Foundation for Breast Cancer. And that one made me cry. That one, all the stories and all the T-shirts and some of the survivors wearing how many years they had been cancer free as they were running or walking or just, with their care team, along beside their nurses. Very emotional runs. Do you ever do any sort of runs? I think they're all kind of associated with charities, but is there any one that's near and dear to your heart?
The London Marathon I'm doing is actually my first race where I actually, in order for me to run it, I had to raise money for a charity. So it was a cool opportunity for me to choose a charity that I thought was deserving, and I was able to raise my minimum, a little over $2,000. I raised in 4 days. And it's for an organization in the UK called Whiz Kids. And it's an organization that supports kids who use electric wheelchairs. And the money raised goes towards purchasing wheelchairs, replacement parts, training for the kids to use the chairs. And so when we go to London in a few weeks, they're going to have a special event for everybody who is a part of raising money for the charity. And we'll get to meet some members of the organization, some of the kids who have benefited from the charity. So it was such a cool opportunity. I have, never done a race specifically for, raising money for a charity. And I was really nervous about it. But I really this charity just kind of touched my heart, and I felt like this was the right fit. And now that I've done it, I'm looking forward to in the future going and doing it again. I found out just a few hours ago I was unfortunately rejected from the New York marathon, another one of the world records, which I'm very upset about. But I have already looked at some of the charities that also offer spots for the upcoming year, for this year. The race runs in November, and I did find an organization that raises money for breast cancer research. And so, having had my mom and 2 of my aunts that were previously diagnosed with breast cancer, my 2 aunts passed away from breast cancer. I'm looking forward to maybe applying for that charity and raising some money, as that is also near and dear to my heart. So, I like the idea of running kind of for a cause. So now that, like I said, now that I've done it once, I look forward to doing it in the future and looking into organizations that I know will have a good impact, and that will help people that people like that I care about. So it's all of these races, they always go towards an organization, but I just, like I said, like this idea of kind of going above and beyond and not just paying the entry fee, but in fact going out and seeking donations. I really like that idea.
Yeah, I'm glad that you felt comfortable, seeking those foundations. I imagine your parents. I don't know if I saw anything posted on Facebook, but if I ever see anything posted on Facebook, I'm happy to be, a contributor. And now I think, Denise, you have good news about you have some good news. You're kind of on the other side of.
Yes. So after so almost a year to the day after I was attacked in Chicago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and after some early stages, but been through my 6th and final surgery on February 1st of this year, and It was caught early. I didn't need chemo or radiation. I am on hormone therapy now for about 7 years, but my doctors assure me I'm in a very good place, and I'm living life. I am not.
And I mean, seriously. Okay. I can't emphasize enough how much you're living life. I just want to say that you and your husband are me and my husband's inspiration for travel. And, we are very much involved with supporting our children. My older son is trying to pursue a career in jiu-jitsu, and half the time it just looks like two guys rolling around on a mat, but I'm there, and I'm learning about it all the time. And really, I mean, Jessica, I don't even know if you know how much pride your mom has in you, and how children teach us things, like I'm saying the word jiu-jitsu again, teach us things that maybe we weren't originally interested in. You sometimes hear about these super runner families that everybody in the family runs. You see husband and wives running beside each other, and their children are running. But sometimes I kind of enjoy the fact when a child finds a passion completely different than our passions, and they find it all on their own in some kind of unique way, and then we get to go on a journey of something we've never even thought about before. And so taking your mom and dad with you on the journey, and going to Tokyo and London, I'm pretty sure they somehow would have found their way to Tokyo. I'm starting to think that there's not a place on the map in the world, and if they could go to the moon, they'd probably post some social media from the moon. So,
well, I just want to say there is one other race that Jessica is signed up for, and it's a marathon, and we have already told her that we will not be going to Antarctica with her to run that marathon. So,
oh my
she's
gosh,
2026. We are not going on that one. So
that is fascinating. Wait a second. Okay, hold on a second. Hold the phone. Okay, hold on a second. Because if I don't ask this question, I believe I'm going to get hate mail. So are you telling me that New York rejected you running, but yet you were going to be running in Antarctica?
That is correct. That is.
Oh my gosh. And given that you don't want to run are you going to try to run in long sleeves on this one? Are you going to try to go with the same tank top? I mean, I don't know. Are you going to be able to freeze? Are you going to freeze to death if you're not wearing some clothing?
It'll be the summer in Antarctica, but summer in Antarctica, it's still Antarctica, right? So I will be running in March of 2026. I put my deposit down last year to guarantee my spot. So my spot is guaranteed and held. I have looked at pictures of runners, and I have yet to see a runner wear shorts and a tank top or a tank top. So maybe I'll be the first. I don't know. I maybe that'll be a cool thing for me to have on my running resume, that I was the first runner to run the Antarctica Marathon in shorts and a tank top. If it's a high of maybe 20 to 25, if it's a sweltering Antarctica day, I see no problem running in my shorts and a tank top. Okay. Maybe gloves. Maybe we'll see.
And so I hope you're lowering your expectation of number of people applauding you on this marathon. I think
just some penguins.
I imagine that you're going to be going by some penguins. I would also imagine that they have some sort of protection. I can tell you that I could run in Antarctica if the polar bear was chasing me, but you'd have to get the polar bears lined up right at the right time. And then the polar bears would have to consistently not catch me for 26 miles in order for me to run a marathon. So Antarctica, I can't even imagine what the deposit was on that. What is the fee for actually
The
going to
deposit was
Antarctica?
easy. It was $300, which I thought, cool, like that's easy. It's the remainder that I'm 2 years out and still a little stressing about a little bit. I might have to take up some charity for myself. It'll be just it's a tour. So actually it's a 2 week long tour. So you fly to South America. There's a couple days in South America, and then you board a like a mini cruise ship almost, and you sail your way through down through the Drake's Passage, and then you actually hit land, and you run your race, and there's optional, I think, some optional tour things you can do, some kayaking. You could, I think, even go camping on the ice, which sounds interesting. So all with just the trip alone, it's about $9,000.
Are you doing this trip by yourself?
I do not have anybody recruited to me. I've put it out to my racing team. I have a pretty big racing team. I've gotten lots of crickets and you're crazies. That's about the extent. I don't have anybody committed. People are saying that's cool, that's interesting. I would never do that. You're insane. That's really expensive. So
Okay. So I'm gonna okay. So, in I think it was the San Francisco Marathon you mentioned, the Tiffany necklace presented to you by the firefighters.
Yes.
So I'm imagining in Antarctica, maybe like they're dressed up like the guy from Frozen. They give you your medal. There's Olaf. Is that who his name was? Like Olaf. Or
Snowman.
Not Olaf.
Snowman.
Yeah, the ice carvers or whoever. I don't know who's going to be there to present you the medal. And do you even know what is the swag for Antarctica, or what are they going to give you?
I think if I'm not mistaken, I feel like there's a jacket or parka that you get that would obviously be probably very useful to just have anyways on that type of a trip. Obviously a cool shirt, the medal, and the best thing is bragging rights. Let's be honest. To say,
right.
I've been to Antarctica, but I ran a marathon there. My one of my bucket lists. Well, one of my many bucket list goals is to run a marathon on every continent. And if that's going to be on my bucket list, this one's got to get done. So here we go.
Do you have a map you put pins in?
I have a map that I actually, it's like a scratch off map. So gifted from my mom, that anytime I visit a country, I get to scratch it off. So my goal is to get it pretty well scratched off. And Antarctica is, even if I step foot on it just, for a little bit to run a marathon, I'll get to just scratch out. That's a whole lot of scratching off I'll get to do for the whole, the whole sheet of ice. So that'll be a really cool one.
Wow. Okay. I don't know that we could top Antarctica. I think Antarctica is the top marathon target, and I don't think that I would have met on my own somebody who I knew was running a marathon in Antarctica had I not had a beer at the Ted Lasso pub in London.
There you go.
So another shout out to the Crown and Anchor pub that I think just has a positive vibe from the universe, and so I almost feel like I need to call them and interview them, or tell them to pass the mic around in there to see who, all the other interesting people that are out there. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I would like to say, I want to hear from both of you. I want to hear from you, Jessica, like, gosh, top 3 decisions that a person, needs to make as they decide, once they make the decision to be a marathon runner, what are, the top 3 sort of top decisions they need to make from there, and then just tips.
I would say number one would be kind of decide if it's really right for you. The training is not easy. It wasn't easy when I first did it. It's not easy now. It's never been easy. It'll probably never be easy. So number one would just be to make sure that this is something you want to do. I think everyone can do it. And that's my thing, is everyone can do it, no matter your size, age, weight, gender, whether you have a background in any type of athletics or not. I am proof of that. So that just number one is just kind of make the commitment to do it. And then once you've made that commitment, I would say number two would be to pick kind of a goal. So maybe it's a goal race, maybe it's a goal location, but having something to work towards, I think really gives weight to the training, to the process, so that that it won't be for naught. It'll come to fruition in kind of a cool, fun way, a celebration, like I said before, at the very end. And I think if you decide that you want to run a marathon, you pick a cool location. I would say number 3 would be to find that support system. For me, it's my parents, it's my running community, it's my coach, my teammates, it's the coaches I have at my weightlifting gym, it's other runners that I work with, and just people I've met at the running store, people I've just talked to. So those are kind of my 3 things that I think would be would set you up for success if you really want to take that dive and just go head first, like I did. Just skip the 5 and 10Ks, skip the half marathon, dive right in, or be reasonable and actually maybe build up. That's probably what I should say, is build up to it. But if you're like me and you just kind of get excited and go big or go home, if that's you, then that's what I would do. And this is where it's got me 16 years later. I'm sitting here talking to you about my accomplishments and the things that I've been able to do, and the community I've made and the support I have, and really all the positives that have come from it. So I say go for it.
I'm telling you, you're selling me. You're making me right now after this podcast, my Gate River running friends will be like, see, I told you. Denise, what about you, as far as, just being a part of this community? What would you say to people supporting runners?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's an honor, not just to support my daughter in what she's doing, but really supporting all those runners that are out there, because like Jessica mentioned, it's the crowds, it's the people out there, and you can cheer on everybody. It doesn't just have to be the one person that you were there to support. So I would say, be a part of that supportive community. I think the other thing is, we can't always predict what's going to happen in our lives. And sometimes really great things happen. Sometimes things that are not so great happen. But to be able to, kind of look past the bad things, like what happened to me in Chicago, I'm here. It's not the end of the world. I survived. It's just don't let that be the determining factor to keep you home. And I think the other thing, and I kind of was there, but maybe I don't have to run a marathon, but you know what? Maybe I could run a 5K. Maybe that is within the realm of possibility. So I would say, those are the things that I would consider to be pretty important as a supporter for a runner.
Well, I would say I think you could run a 5K if I ran a 5K in a costume. I
There you go.
I mean,
There you go.
yeah, again, I think 5Ks are fun, attainable, and
Mhm.
you know, I did it after a few 5 a.m.s in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, certainly just a couple. I don't think I had the right shoes. Because I was so into my costume that I kind of threw my running shoes to the side because it didn't match my costume. I was like more obsessed with my costume than I was with comfort, which probably is something I don't suggest for people who are trying to run. Maybe, you know, stick with the running shoes and, you know, no one will look at your costume as being incomplete if you have running shoes
Right.
while running. Uh, and, you know, I also want to say I just love the mother daughter you know, love here. A little shout out if anybody has listened to, you know, my other podcast, they understand how close I was to my mom and what a loss it was for me when she passed away. But she had been to all of my athletic events, all the athletics that I participated in, and so it's just really special for a child to see their parent there. And, you know, with us and the journey that our son is on, deciding to forego college and do, you know, pursue professional jiu-jitsu. I think some parents would be like, absolutely not. You need to stay in college and that's the way it needs to be. But again, you know, you mentioned that life happens and, you know, COVID happened and my son said, you know, online college is not for me. So we took those lemons and we made it lemonade, and, you know, he's out in Austin, Texas, you know, living his best life. I spent some time in what I like to call his Mojo Dojo Casa Dosa man cave with all the other jiu-jitsu guys. And you know, I think what's really the big takeaway from a lot of this conversation as well is, you know, Jessica, you found your people. We talk a lot about finding your community and finding your people and, you know, having a support system, but just finding like-minded people. And I love that. I think, you know, I went to Podfest and I found a lot of people that like to talk. I mean, my husband was like, thank God, you know, she found some people. I mean, remote work is hard when you're kind of a talker. So shout out to the podcast community. I want to thank you guys both for coming on. I will I'm on Facebook with your mom. Please also, you know, love to follow your journey as well, so that if you ever need any charity donations, I'm happy to participate with that. So thank you so much. And I have to do my little promo shout out that I'm really bad at, but I want to tell everybody to go up to decisiondiaries.com. I'm hoping that maybe you can send me a picture of the Tiffany necklace. If not, just send me the fireman with the Tiffany necklace. I have been married for 25 years, but I'm not dead, you know. So love to get those pictures up there on our website, decisiondiaries.com. You can also opt in to be a member of what I'm calling the decision makers. If there are decisions you want to hear about, we will go find those guests and ask them those questions about those decisions. And then, of course, you can always be a guest on the podcast. And if you have any questions for Jessica about running, Jessica, can we send those comments and questions over to you? Maybe get some people answering them and sharing in your passion. So
please do.
Please do. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah. And thank you so much for anybody who is listening to this podcast.
Decision Diaries.